In 2019, I turned 19 years old. Yes, birthdays are really easy for me. Ever since my birthday, I had one thought stuck in my head, narrated by our Lord and Savior, Lord.
I'm 19 and I'm on fire.
Indeed, I was on fire, in more ways than one. I've had to face a lot of growing pains and difficult decisions that come with transitioning into adulthood, but I also had a fantastic year where I started making YouTube videos and making new friends that I think I'll cherish for a very long time. There's also the literal interpretation of it, but let's save that for another time. No matter how you interpret the phrase, I was truly on fire. And so was popular music this year. Bet you like that segue, huh? Not a lot of years have the honor of its biggest hits also being its best hits and vice versa, but 2019 managed to do it. And as I'm sure many people are saying, it's also quite an interesting and progressive year, one where we finally clear out the stagnating junk and usher in some fresh new faces in music, at least for the most part. I considered making a worst list video to complement this one, but for one, I barely had the time to make this video, and also most of the worst songs this year are barely that terrible, so like it would have been a real challenge to make a full video out of that. But in case you were curious, here's the list.
Then I see the bills up out of the bank. The blog and the media fake. Shout it DM me, I'm straight.
You just gotta be worth it. Oh, baby, can't fool me. Your body's got other plans.
Murder on my mind.
Taki taki rumba.
Ain't no running, Tatiana. You gonna take these damn strokes, Tatiana. I beat the pussy up. Knocking boots. Knocking boots.
And if I smoke a rapper, it's gonna be legit. It won't be for clout, it won't be for fame. It won't be cause my shit ain't selling the same. You got it, girl, you got it.
Okay, let's get back to the stuff that matters. To recap my rules for eligibility for the list, a song has to either appear in this year's Billboard year-end list or chart in the top 20 at any point this year. And only one song per lead artist, as I mentioned before. I've relaxed the rules a little bit this year, such that songs that achieved the first rule before this year can still be on the list, as long as it charted in the top 20 for longer this year than it did the previous year. Basically, if it's more of a 2019 hit than a 2018 hit, it's eligible. Also, to be honest, I'm going to be treating these more like guidelines than rules from now on. There's some songs out there that most people would say are hits even though they don't technically achieve these criteria. Enough of that though, let's get into the list. These are the top 10 best hit songs of 2019. Number 10. I said in my fall ranking video that Sunflower might end up getting kicked off of the list. Did that happen? Almost. Almost. This was the song to beat this year. A song so beautiful and perfect and universally beloved that it's definitely going to be on many people's best lists, maybe even at the very top of some of them. Sunflower's sound is by far its most striking element. It has these synths that are so spacey, yet the song is grounded by this simple yet incredibly locomotive beat that's lo-fi yet incredibly curt and crisp.
Calling it quits now, baby, I'm a wreck. Crash at my place, baby, you're a wreck.
It's this sweet contrast, combined with the chord progression reminiscent of Style by Taylor Swift, that makes Sunflower's instrumental sound so delicious and groovy. The performers really elevate the song as well. Both of them are a great fit for the spacey melodic emotional experience of Sunflower, but Sway Lee is far and away the more striking singer.
Ooh, certain things you just can't refuse.
The big reverb he put on his already beautiful voice makes me feel like I'm being whisked away in the night to admire the city lights. Or I guess swinging around because, you know, Spider-Man. And I feel that connection too, but probably not as much as other people seem to. If there's so much to love about it, why did it just barely manage to scrape onto my list? Well, to be honest, these lyrics have been a real hurdle for me. I at least know it's about a couple struggling to stay together due to their own issues, yet realizing that they're so passionate about each other that they can't just let it end. I do really love that concept personally, but something about the lyrics kept bugging me and I didn't really understand why until very recently. Remember my summer ranking video when I said this? I would probably like this song a lot more if it only had Sway Lee on it. Make of that what you will. Yeah, I still stick by it. Both Post and Sway Lee seem to represent similar characters, both of them having their own personal issues which lead them to push their lover away. In both of their verses, their lover comes back and wants to stay together, but what distinguishes the two from each other is how they respond to that. What makes Sway Lee's verse really compelling is that he sees his lover's dedication and feels the need to make it up to them.
She wanna ride me like a cruise, and I'm not trying to lose.
The person he portrays is far from perfect, but his resolve to be better for his lover shows a real heart that shines through. It's a perfect complement to the melancholic yet comforting vibe of the song. I can't say the same for Post Malone's verse.
Every time I'm leaving on you, you don't make it easy, no.
He's in a somewhat different situation from Sway Lee, where he's struggling to find time to spend with his lover due to his own hectic life to his dismay. It's a real and frustrating situation that I'm sure many people can connect to, but what kind of bothers me here is that unlike Sway Lee, Post Malone doesn't seem to have the same drive to improve the situation for both of them. He just kinda shrugs his shoulders and says,
But it's out of my control.
It's a similar problem that I had with Circles. He's certainly sad that he's facing these issues in the relationship, but he doesn't seem to care enough to express any desire to escape or change the situation. It makes this verse kinda ring hollow for me. It's hard for me to feel invested in this situation, since it feels like he doesn't care about it nearly as much as Sway Lee does. It kinda hurts the song for me, because the music makes me feel like it should have way more impact. The way the music drops out and fades on Post's pre-chorus feels like this emotional climax that reaches into the deepest depths of my soul. Yet all I get is the feeling that this guy would probably only feel bad about missing the birth of his first child because he would have to deal with his wife being upset. Now, does all this bother me enough to dislike the whole song? Not really, to be honest, but I just had to figure out why it was bothering me this much. Otherwise, Sunflower is still fantastic overall, and it definitely deserves the massive success it received. Also, for the record, I like Bumblebee more than Spider-Verse.
You're the sunflower.
Number 9. Earlier in the year, I decided on a whim to listen to the Billboard year-end list of every year this decade, from 2010 until now. I ended up learning a lot of things, like how insufferable Drake is, or how much I actually like Selena Gomez. Oh yeah, I actually like Selena Gomez. Whenever I hear people talk about Selena Gomez, they always mention how boring or untalented she is. And for the longest time, I just kinda took their word for it. I mean, it's not like she has a whole lot of cultural impact that her peers like Ariana and Miley do. Surely that means she's completely unremarkable, right? However, when I went on that Billboard year-end expedition, I kept coming across Selena's hits sprinkled throughout the charts, and I ended up loving almost all of them. I think we can all agree that Naturally fucking slaps, but Come to Get It, Good For You, specifically the version with A$AP Rocky, The Heart Wants What It Wants, Hands to Myself, Back to You, and Wolves are all just wonderful. The only song of hers that I actively disliked while going through all of her hits was Who Says. Say what you want about Selena, at least she's not making Who Says anymore. After listening to all those songs, it made me question why people really don't like her. It just kinda perplexes me more than anything else, cause I honestly don't see what makes her particularly unlikable. Lose You to Love Me makes that question a bit harder for me because, as you might have guessed, I actually quite like it.
We'd always go into it blindly.
So this song is about Justin Bieber. Yes, this is about Justin Bieber. And I probably know just as little about that whole ordeal as you do. It doesn't sound like much fun though, judging from the song.
I put you first and you adored it. You got off in the hurting when it wasn't yours. And 2 months you replaced us. Like it was easy, made me think I deserved it. In the thick of healing, sang off key in my chorus, cause it wasn't yours.
I don't know about you, but this song really makes me feel for Selena. She illustrates that Justin's the kind of ass that keeps taking and taking in a relationship without giving anything in return, and she demonstrates how she felt trapped in that situation until she managed to distance herself from it, accepting that he was indeed a piece of shit and finding her own self-worth to stand on.
This dancer was killing me softly. I needed to hate you to love me, yeah.
It's honestly quite cathartic to watch her go through that progression, especially when I relate her story to my own experiences where I've had to overcome toxic situations. She performs it with the kind of gravitas that the lyrics need to as well. It still fits within her wheelhouse of soft, sultry vocals, yet she injects her emotions into it in a way that feels like they're almost leaking out, as if they're about to burst out hoping to be fully released.
This dancer was killing me softly. I needed to hate you to love me, yeah.
The composition and the production is really what elevates the song for me. It's fundamentally a sparse piano ballad, but all of the different flourishes of strings and synths bring it even higher. In particular, I really like the choice of those plucking strings that come in during the second verse.
I gave my all and they all know it.
They give the song an almost whimsical atmosphere, which feels almost ironic at first, but when the happy ending eventually comes, it's so much more gratifying. While I'm not 100% sure what exactly he contributed, you can thank Phineas for co-producing this Justin Bieber diss track. If you don't know who he is, Phineas is the main collaborator and older brother of Billie Eilish, who is, quite a fan of Justin Bieber. Pop music never ceases to amaze me. Though, even with the wonderful production, this song is also just fantastically composed. This chord progression kind of astounds me with how well it works.
You promised the world and I fell for it. I put you first and you adored it. Set fires to my forest.
It perfectly complements the darker, sadder moments of the song with the ultimately triumphant resolution of it. It takes you on an emotional journey to help you understand her plight, but it kind of secretly reassures you that everything will turn out okay. It was honestly kind of hard writing a section for this song because whenever I wanted to compliment something I liked about it, I felt like I had to either dial it back so it doesn't seem like I'm fawning over a Selena Gomez song, or I felt like I had to balance it out with criticism about her. But I don't want to do that. I love this song and I'm gonna fawn about it as much as I like. After all, my most important takeaway from listening to all the year-end lists of the decade is that it's important to listen to yourself and trust your own opinion. I needed to lose that self-doubt to love my own heart, I guess you could say. Number 8. I swear, it's only a coincidence that I put another female rapper at number 8 like I did with Cardi B last year. I swear it's also a coincidence that it's a collaboration with 2 other people. I'm really glad that we're seeing more and more female rappers come up in the mainstream as of late. Between Megan and Lizzo and Saweetie and Cupcake and probably a few others I can't quite remember. Sure, a handful of female rappers in a sea full of male rappers isn't exactly balancing everything out, but considering that most of these women have gotten big within just the last few years or so, things are looking good so far. I feel like the presence of more women in hip-hop is a good example of why diversity in media is always a good thing. It's important to explore and shed light on the perspectives of as many different people as possible. After all, it gets kinda tiring listening to straight dudes moan about their love life all the time, so it's refreshing to hear a woman brag about all the sex she gets with dudes while keeping the dominance that has always been a valuable asset in hip-hop. This may or may not be a thinly veiled attempt to say that I would like to have more hoe anthems about getting it on with dudes. Basically, I want hip-hop to look like this.
Oh my god!
Look, most straight men are allowed to be horny on me all the time. Let me have this. Of course, all of this would be kind of irrelevant if Hot Girl Summer wasn't a good powerbomb anthem in the first place, but I feel like Megan has so much skill, charisma, and command that she doesn't really have to worry about that.
He put in all that work, he wanna be the MVP. I told him ain't no taming me, I love my niggas equally.
I'm absolutely convinced that she's just swimming in dudes, and I really like how that line in particular makes her sound like she's not just haplessly throwing them away when she's done. It's like she's managing a sports team here. She's the boss around here, but everyone has something to contribute. Go team! Now, Megan's definitely proved that she can easily hold her own, so I wasn't sure about the need to have Nicki be a feature on here, especially since her involvement apparently delayed the release of the song until the end of the summer. And I still wouldn't say she's necessary, but at least her verse was good.
Who a how to be? Who got a lot of D? Who poppin' like a P when he be hopping out the V?
Nicki's been pretty notorious as of late for her underwhelming flows and non-rhymes, and while this verse isn't completely immune to the rhyme problem, at least her flows are still pretty serviceable and filled with the energy the song requires. I especially really like the descending flow she has on the pre-chorus.
I'm just a real lad bitch, give a fuck about a trick. I'm some real ass shit, and we really with this shit.
I do get why Megan got Nicki on the song though. Hot Girl Summer is supposed to be an anthem for the Hot Girl Summer Instagram trend that Megan started this year, where she encourages women to celebrate themselves and each other regardless of their appearance. It's just that I'm not really sure if it was really worth delaying the song's release, which seemed to kinda hurt the song's success. Sure, a number 11 debut isn't too shabby for a new artist like Megan, but this could have easily been the smash hit that it deserved to be. Maybe if Megan just got another female rapper instead of Nicki, like Lizzo or Cardi B or, you know, the famous female rapper that she already got on the song. $$.
Real ass nigga give a fuck about a bitch. It is what it is, this some 5-star dick.
His inclusion kinda confuses me. In what is supposed to be an anthem for all the women in the world to celebrate and feel good about themselves, did the hook really need to be performed by a dude? Like, he could have at least played into the whole femdom thing like the baby kinda does in Cash shit. But instead he just sings the same I don't care about the woman I'm screwing shit that I just said I was tired of. Thing is though, I don't really care too much about what he's saying for one simple reason. His voice is so dreamy.
Real ass nigga give a fuck about a bitch. It is what it is, this some 5-star dick.
He has this voice that's both kind of raspy and rough, yet it just feels so smooth. It really complements the production well, which is my favorite part of all of this.
I can't read your mind, gotta say that shit. Should I take your love, should I take that dick?
I already said that it slaps hard, but those synths, they're so heavenly. They feel weirdly soft and inviting. Like they make me feel a sense of comfort and warmth if this weren't a song about being a power bottom. I'm really glad that people like Megan Thee Stallion are around to breathe new life into popular music. Maybe someday I'll get the gay rapper of my dreams, but for now I'm definitely more than happy with what I have. Number 7. Now the next entry is a K-pop song, but unlike last year, I don't have to bend the rules to include it because it peaked in the top 10. Hooray! This is pure bubblegum through and through. I can practically taste the rainbow that's spewing into my mouth. I'm sure that'll turn some people off, especially those who are already turned off by anything or anyone even tangentially related to K-pop. But like, goddamn, y'all gotta learn to have some fun every once in a while. From the moment it starts, the song gives you a little taste of the sea of sugar honey iced tea that's gonna envelop you for the next few minutes. The production's full of flourishes like that bright guitar line, the glistening synths, and that groovy bass line. Everything drops out and comes back swinging at the right time, and all of it goes perfectly with every performance on the song. The singers of the band all have these gorgeous, silky smooth deliveries that are a perfect match for the production. I think my favorite example of this is in the pre-chorus, when their high and low vocals are complemented and matched so perfectly. And one other little production moment I'd like to highlight is that drum roll and the whoop that comes in right before the chorus. It feels like I'm being swept up before I'm brought along a magic carpet ride through clouds of cotton candy. It's kind of the perfect embodiment of falling giddy in love. It's so sweet I almost want to puke. Thankfully though, the rappers of the group come in to drop their verses. Of course, they have very little edge to them, but at the same time, they provide just the right amount of texture to keep the song's sweet summery vibe while making it palatable at the same time. They add a little more personality and playfulness to a song that would have otherwise just been too squeaky clean. For the record, just from this song alone, I think my bias would probably be J-Hope. I may not be super familiar with each individual member of BTS, but I sure am familiar with Halsey, or at least more so than BTS. Halsey's involvement seems kind of peculiar at first. I mean, in the same year, she got the third biggest hit song of the year with a really dreary, anguished Cry Me a River tribute, not to mention that the rest of her discography isn't much cheerier than that for the most part. Not that that's a bad thing though. Actually, I should probably admit that on top of Selena Gomez, I actually quite like Halsey. She has this really striking, distinct voice, and on the songs I've heard from her, she has some real production and songwriting chops. Her Badlands album has quite a fond place in my memory, though I don't really revisit it much these days. I remember being 15 when it came out and seeing pretty much literally everyone my age talking about it. When my curiosity got the better of me, I found an album full of dark pop anthems that could fulfill any angsty teenager's needs. Of course, at the time, if you so much as deigned to call Halsey pop, she probably would have physically appeared in your house and clawed your eyes out. But as time has gone on, she seems to have become more familiar and comfortable with the sound, at least if not by name. And honestly, I'm really glad that she's found a footing in this area of music. Her crisp and vibrant voice is something that suits both the darker and the lighter elements of pop music, and I really appreciate her versatility, even if I might not necessarily like it all the time. But Boy With Love is a whole nother extreme I wasn't expecting from her, and yet she still fits in really well. It feels like a sharp knife cutting through the bubblegum, but instead of being painful and edgy, it's smooth and satisfying. She harmonizes and bounces off of them in a way that feels natural and fun. Not to mention that she probably has the single best ad-lib of the year. I definitely understand if this isn't your cup of tea. This is pure concentrate plastic bubblegum, and it probably won't appeal to you if that's the kind of thing you can't stomach. But like I said when I was talking about finesse last year, we all need a little happiness every once in a while. Number 6. As much as I do my best to articulate why I like the music I like, sometimes it's just not possible. Or at the very least, it's not really worth trying so hard to say what you feel when you can just feel it. Sometimes you just gotta vibe, you know? Ever since his debut in 2017, Khalid has made a name for himself by making incredibly smooth and relaxed R&B that you can just chill to. At first I felt that made him kind of boring and uninteresting, but eventually I grew to really appreciate his style. His first album, American Teen, saw him exploring his versatility in this field and generally developing his craft. And in Better, I think he's mastered it.
Nothing feels better than this. Nothing feels better. Nothing feels better than this.
It's just kind of perfect in a way that's hard to tangibly explain. I guess I could say the piano that drives the melody throughout the song is really pretty, the trap skitters and the low kick drum give it some great momentum and complement the spacey melody really well, and all the different synths in the song are just really gorgeous as well. Now, Better was already really good for the first 2.5 minutes, but the real reason why it's on the list is because Khalid wasn't just content with letting the vibe carry the whole song, so he decided to take it up a notch. We all know that Khalid has a fantastic lower range. It's smooth and sultry, yet weathered and textured, and he has incredible control of his vocal runs. What we've heard from the song so far is already a great showcase of his typical range, but when we get to that final chorus, it's simply transcendent.
Nothing feels better than this. Nothing feels better.
Like, I've heard Khalid go high before, but it's still always a wonderful surprise whenever he does it. You just never expect it from someone who's already so good in their comfort zone. And just when you're done being entranced by his own vocals, the song does this. I should mention that I have a real soft spot for vocoders and whatever effects singers use to make their voices sound robotic, especially in sentimental songs about the human condition. Take for instance, Oh What a World by Casey Musgraves. Or any Daft Punk song where they sing. Here, it's not quite as lyrically profound, but it's no less mesmerizing. The way it starts to sneak in under Khalid's voice at points throughout the final chorus before it completely takes over the outro is hauntingly captivating. It's so captivating, in fact, that it almost makes you forget that the whole song is about hooking up with your neighbor. Truly astounding. What can't this man do? Number 5. Before we get to the next entry, I'd like to remind all of you, Sam Smith goes by they, them pronouns now. That means you will refer to them by using they, them, or their. For example, I like Sam Smith, they're really good. Or, I don't really like Sam Smith, I've never really been a fan of their music. You will not use he, him, or his to refer to them unless they themselves say that they go by those pronouns now, which as of now, they don't. I hope you get that, because if I see anyone in the comments refer to Sam Smith with he, him pronouns, I'll just reply to you with they, them until you get the memo. We don't purposely misgender people around these parts.
Guess it's true, I'm not good at a one-night stand.
Sam Smith broke out onto the scene in 2014, making sad, melodramatic, yet kinda dreary piano ballads like Stay With Me, which became the kind of music they would be known for. At the same time, however, they were also dipping their toes into more upbeat music through collaborations with artists such as Disclosure and Naughty Boy, as well as Calvin Harris later on. We've all seen the potential they had to make more fun and dynamic music, going so far as to say they should stop making their own music and just work with other producers. Fast forward 5 years later, and Sam Smith has really come out of their shell. Yes, I put this on the list over Dancing with a Stranger. I put this weird, messy song with a grating drop on the list over one of the tightest, grooviest songs of the year. In all fairness, that would absolutely be on the list if it weren't for the lead artist clause, but let me tell y'all why I think How Do You Sleep is not only more interesting and gratifying to listen to and to watch, but it's also more commendable as a piece of art.
I don't wanna be alone tonight.
As I've said before, Dancing with a Stranger is just immaculate. Both Sam and Normani give these fantastically subtle performances that match the deliciously smooth dance production and lyrics about getting it on with someone new in order to forget about your past relationship. However, there was always one thing that, I wouldn't say it bothered me, but in retrospect it did kind of hold back the song.
dancing with a stranger.
The song's progression really leaves something to be desired. It doesn't really go up or down, it just kinda keeps going at its own comfortable pace. And while that's perfectly good for the song that it is, it just means that it won't really leave a big impact on me. That's something I can definitely count on How Do You Sleep for.
I'm done hating myself for feeling.
One thing that I absolutely adore this song for is how it introduces each element of its production one by one and mixes them together as it progresses. It starts with this gorgeous twinkling sound that almost sounds like a lullaby. Sam comes in for the first verse, their voice beautifully controlled yet emotive. Some hi-hats come in, followed by a low bassy synth as the verse progresses, and then when the pre-chorus comes in, right as you expect a change up,
Baby, how do you sleep when you lie to me?
it just keeps going. The same hi-hats and synths that have been building up the song just get bigger, and when that drop finally comes,
Tell me, how do you?
all of that drops out completely, swapped out for a dark droning bass, that ever contentious vocal sample which I actually like quite a bit, as well as this fantastic main beat of the song which waited patiently until the 80-second mark to appear. It's fast paced and bouncy, and it gives the song some insane forward momentum which carries on to the second verse.
It's crazy.
In contrast with the first verse, this part is supported by just the beat and the original low synth. As it keeps going, the higher synths slowly fade back in, and right when the pre-chorus comes back and you expect to hear the synths back at the front again,
How do you sleep when you lie to me?
they disappear again. Not only do I love how it plays with your expectations, but the song still makes sense overall in spite of that. The first part is dominated by the synths, while the second part is dominated by the beat. The song challenges you to keep up with it, and once you're able to appreciate that, it rewards you by combining every element we've heard before together.
How do you sleep when you lie to me?
The different beats, the different synths and everything. All of it coalesces into this fantastic package that's more than the sum of its parts. The beat is tense and a little dark, but the melody is buoyant and shimmering, and they combine together into an incredibly cathartic piece of pop euphoria. This was a fantastic song for Sam Smith to really unleash themselves upon. Say what you want about how good they are at this whole dance diva thing, it's always both terrifying and liberating to show a true expression of yourself after hiding it for so long. And I'm so proud of them for finally finding the courage to do so, both in their identity and their music. It's always wonderful to see someone blossom.
Tell me, how do you?
For the record, the last 4 songs on this list are all absolutely fantastic, and I adore all of them in different yet similarly strong ways. All of them deserve this top spot, so don't take the rankings too seriously from here on out. Number 4. Man, I deserve some credit here. Not only did I inspire the title of Taylor Swift's latest album, Lover, as well as the overall theme of it in my video last year, there was a moment when I realized that there's so many love songs on here because her lover is her refuge from her reputation. From all the drama and the expectations and the people who tried to make her look bad. But I also came up with the exact same composition for the album cover through this concept art for a Kandar album 3 whole months before Lover was even announced. Where's my royalty check, Taylor? Before I talk about Lover the song, I want to mention that Lover the album is arguably my favorite album of the year. Yes, I've listened to Lana's, Tyler's, Billy's, FKA Twigs's, Lizzo's, and Ariana's albums, and while Taylor's album might not be as cohesive or objectively great as any of them, it still has a special emotional resonance in its songs and overall narrative that really touched my heart. With a few exceptions in the track list, the album goes through the story of Taylor finally finding somebody that deeply loves and cares for her as much as she does them. We see this play out in many ways, from the blossoming new love in Cruel Summer, I Think He Knows, and Paper Rings, to the maturing relationship in the title track and False God, and most stunningly, moments of vulnerability where Taylor realizes or believes that she could lose her lover in The Archer, Cornelia Street, and Afterglow. Those last few songs really elevate the album, as not only does it demonstrate Taylor's character growth, but it also radiates this deep, aching humanity of being profoundly terrified of losing someone that you've searched for your whole life and that makes you so happy now. Not only are they incredible on their own, but they make the unabashed love on the rest of the tracklist so much sweeter and feel so much more genuine. In the last track of the album, Daylight, after having gone through all those ups and downs, we find Taylor finally happy with her lover.
I've been sleeping so long in a 20-year dark night, and now I see daylight.
Not only is it a fantastic happy ending to the album, but it also feels like the beautiful, gratifying finale of the decade-long soap opera that is Taylor Swift's public life. After all the bullshit that has happened to her, after all of these years, it feels like a curse has been lifted and she's finally happy to be where she is. Imagine telling someone in 2012 that Taylor would eventually sing about being happy in a relationship. Lover isn't a perfect album by any means, but it has a real heart and humanity in it that resonates with me deeply. And of course, that's something that can be found in its title track.
We could leave the Christmas lights up till January.
Lover the song is about Taylor and her, lover in a time of domestic bliss, where they've settled into a home of their own. A place to call their own and where they could be their truest, most relaxed and comfortable selves around each other. They see the prospect of a happy life before them, and it only makes Taylor that much happier that she'll get to spend this life with this person. The verses depict vignettes of their relatively mundane life, where they leave their friends in the living room and the Christmas lights up for a few more weeks, contrasting them with lines about how she's still so infatuated with this person after so long.
And there's a dazzling haze, a mysterious way about you, dear. Have I known you 20 seconds or 20 years?
And I think that's part of what makes Lover so magical. Taylor makes these boring moments of her life with her lover romantic, not just in spite of, but because of how mundane they are. It's the fact that even in those moments, she's still lucky enough to have them with someone she has such a strong bond with that really sticks with me, and it really makes the song just so sweet.
Can I go where you go? Can we always be this close?
There's something so deeply tender about this song that's honest to God making me tear up as I write the script. The image it conjures in my mind is that of two people hugging each other tight as they slowly dance in the peaceful world of their living room, completely safe in their arms yet longing for the moment to never end. Granted, I'm imagining my OCs doing this as I listen to it, which is probably adding to it, but, my point still stands. The love she sings about here is warm, cozy, and content, and it's this absolute gratitude that love has prevailed for this long as well as her yearning for this love to last forever that fills my heart to the brim.
Can I go where you go?
The sound of the song really brings it all out as well. It has this really rootsy 70s Americana sound to it that makes the song feel like it couldn't have been performed at a venue bigger than your local bar. And it really elevates the excellent songwriting by adding to the feeling of being physically intimate yet emotionally huge, as if you're slow dancing with your lover, and the connection you feel with each other feels like it could transcend lifetimes. It perfectly encapsulates the feeling of being alone with the person you feel closest to and feeling your heart soar. It's such a beautiful song on its own, but hearing it in the context of the album, you absolutely feel where she's coming from emotionally. You witness her love blossom for this person, and you feel her pain when that love is threatened. And you really feel just how happy she is to be so lucky to have this. It's a fantastic love letter to the love of her life, and I really truly hope that they can enjoy this forever. Taylor deserves it.
Lover.
Number 3.
What is it about them?
If you've seen anybody talking about how progressive and forward-thinking popular music has been this year, odds are they were talking about Billie Eilish, or at least they were subconsciously thinking about her. And rightfully so. She's truly a visionary making fantastic music that taps into a myriad of influences that she turns, twists, and distorts into her own unique style, all while addressing her thoughts and feelings about the different anxieties in her life. Contrary to popular belief, Billie has a lot of emotional range across her discography. However, one thing I never expected to hear from her is a happy song. Of course, this next song doesn't really change that. I don't know, maybe it kinda does. It's certainly a sad song, but a sad song can also be more than that. A quick disclaimer for anyone who might need it, this section will involve mentions of suicide, so if you would like to skip this section, you can either go to this timestamp for a summary of how I feel about the song, or you can go to this timestamp to go straight to the next song. Of course, it's hard to see how Everything I Wanted could be anything but a sad song. In the first verse, Billie is shaken by a nightmare where she jumps off the Golden Gate Bridge, and everyone she knew turned their backs on her. She recalls the dream as if she had just woken up from it nearly in tears.
I had a dream. I got everything I wanted. Not what you think. And if I'm being honest, it might have been a nightmare to anyone who might care.
I love that you can interpret this line and in turn the rest of the song in different ways. The obvious thing is that it's about her rise to fame. She got everything she wanted, and it's not all that it seems. Not that it's not about that, but I have another interpretation that I feel makes the first verse more tightly connected and the song more impactful and resonant. Think about it. She got everything she wanted. What exactly was it that Billy wanted?
I wanna end me.
She dreamed she got everything she wanted, but it wasn't what you'd think, and it might have been a nightmare to anyone who might care. The way Billy says this so casually breaks my heart. Now, if the first verse is already so gut-wrenching, why would I deign to call it a happy song? Well, for one, she wakes up from her nightmare.
But when I wake up, I see you with me.
Everything I Wanted is a song that Billy wrote with her brother and her main collaborator, Phineas, and she says it's the song that they wrote about each other as well. One of them is always there for the other, and in this case, Billy has the love and support of her brother. I cannot overstate this. I feel the love and concern from his words deep in my core.
If I could change the way that you see so.
It feels like I'm hearing Billy actually waking up from this nightmare and being comforted. They're the kind of soft, comforting words that can make even the toughest of hearts melt and crumble. It gives me the same feeling that Rainbow by Casey Musgraves gives me.
When it rains, it pours, but you didn't even notice.
It's the all too simple words of a dear loved one telling you that they'll be there for you and it'll all be alright that makes you break down, but not in a bad way at all. It's when you realize that you can be vulnerable around this person, and you learn that you don't have to carry your terrible burden anymore. Or at least you don't have to perform the terrible task of putting up a tough facade as if you're not really struggling with anything. Jesus Christ, I need a hug. All of this is complemented wonderfully by the production, which is uniquely Billy and Phineas. The song revolves around this melody which sounds like a piano line with some kind of reverse effect on it, and it's driven by this gentle yet surprisingly propulsive 4-to-the-floor beat, which combined with the affected piano line feels almost pulsing.
It could have been a nightmare, but it felt like they were right there.
This song about being comforted after a bad dream is somehow this close to being a dance song. I have no idea how they did it, but they did it.
And you say, as long as I'm here, no one can hurt you.
Everything I Wanted is such a truly loving song at its core, even with its grim subject matter, and its fantastic production helps to tell its story so well. This might be Billy's best song to date, and a catalog full of fantastic, boundary-pushing, and emotionally resonant music. I'll admit, I had a tough time figuring out which Billy song to put on this list. I knew one of them was going to be on there for sure, but none of them really struck me on my core as much as this did. Bury a Friend is intense and terrifying, but it's not something I return to very much, even though I like it. Bad Guy is fantastic, as I've said before, but I'm not sure if it would have been worth putting over everything else. When the Party's Over was the runner-up Billy hit for the list because of its fantastic composition, but even that doesn't hit quite as hard as Everything I Wanted does. I'm so glad this reached the top 20 this year, because it might possibly be my favorite Billie Eilish song, all of her deep cuts included. It's haunting and devastating, yet so deeply loving and sentimental at its core. Billie absolutely deserves the praise she's gotten, and I sincerely hope that she has a long and fruitful life and career ahead of her. We'd all be better off with her around. Number 2. Before I introduce my next entry, I'd like to formally introduce you to one of the many important people I've met this year who have truly made it special. My robot character, Kandar. Of course you've seen him earlier in the video, but you might also recognize him from about 90% of all the art I've made this year, as well as the cameo I made on Diamond Axe Studios' Worst of 2019 video. Hi, I'm Loeko. Now I'd like to ask you to take a look at my boy Kandar. Thank you for looking. Sean gave me 5 seconds to shout out any cause I wanted, sincere or otherwise, and I could have said anything that would end up in a video with many creators that I love, as well as Drake Bell, the guy who made Cause I Got High, and one of the dudes who made Laffy Taffy, and this is what I chose to say. I regret absolutely nothing. Kandar started out as my player character in Destiny 2, which I started playing in February this year, and I instantly fell in love with him. I didn't really intend to fully develop him at first, but as I kept playing the game with him and I started making art of him, and as he started developing this sweet, gentle, and kind personality along the way, he started to become really special to me. His existence has led to actual, tangible, good things happening to me. People started to love him as much as I do, and not only did I gain a bigger following online, but I've met some really wonderful people, including some artists I've looked up to for a very long time, and friends who I'll cherish for even longer, thanks to Kandar. Not to mention that Tessa Violet liked this one Kandar tweet that I made where I put him in Genius Verified. She even replied to me afterwards. Like I said, this was a wild year. Aside from giving me a debatable amount of internet clout though, Kandar has just been this really wonderful, positive, therapeutic force in my life, and his kind, loving personality seems to really resonate with people who are familiar with him. I really love thinking about him and drawing him, and I'm really glad that people started to love him as much as I do. Which kinda reminds me of another person.
I'm crying 'cause I love you.
I found out about Lizzo about a month and a half before I made Kandar, around the time that Juice first came out. Right away I could feel her potential to become a superstar, and I prayed for the seemingly inevitable yet realistically unlikely chance that she would actually become famous so that I could talk about her and I could put one of her songs on my best list. I guess I must have awakened some kind of merciful yet quirky monkey's paw or something, because that wish did come true, except the song that would end up being on the list would be one from 2016.
I do my hair toss, check my nails. Baby, how you feeling?
The empowerment anthem is a tricky thing to master, and because many artists have tried and failed to make it work, these songs have garnered quite a negative reputation. I'm personally not really put off by empowerment anthems in general, but it's easy to see why many people are. Depending on what exactly the artist was going for, they can often turn out lame and weak at best, and condescending and insulting at worst. Oftentimes the issue is simply that the artist doesn't really have any personal experience with the thing they're singing about. Looking at you, Logic.
Who can relate?
I think the problem is that people can see right through the bullshit, a lot better than you might give them credit for. People know when you're singing from your heart, and when you're singing from your brain, racking itself to think of ways to help people with situations you can't really relate to. There's a big difference between an artist who makes this kind of music because they want to help people, and an artist who makes that kind of music because they know what it's like to go through that pain and wants to help other people going through that same pain. I think that's a big reason why I like Lizzo so much. I can tell that Lizzo gets it.
Yeah, I got boy problems, that's the human in me. Bling bling, then I solve them, that's the goddess.
Lizzo has had a difficult life up to this point, especially with regards to her music career, but outside of it as well. She spent the entire decade grinding and clawing her way up to the top, and during the death of her father, a bout of homelessness while trying to start her music career, body image issues, and the struggle of being an underground artist for years. She's talked about how around the time she released Truth Hurts 2 years ago, she was in a dark place and she came very close to quitting music altogether. By that point, she had already been working her ass off for years and it still wasn't paying off. And that's something I think is very important to remember. All of this aggressive positivity didn't come out of nowhere for Lizzo.
If I'm shining, everybody gonna shine.
She's been through lots of tough times and she knows what it's like to feel slighted in life. She knows exactly what that pain feels like and she wants to help other people who are feeling that same pain. And I think that's something that comes across in her music even if you don't already know her journey. Whenever other artists try to encourage self-love like Lizzo does, it often feels like they're just singing at you. Like they're a stranger who only just heard about your plight for the first time today and are merely trying to help with what little they can give you. Lizzo on the other hand feels like she's singing with you, like she knows what you've been through even though she doesn't, because she's been through enough in her life to understand that whatever you're going through hurts, and she's right there with you empathizing with your pain.
Ooh, child, tired of the bullshit, gone dust your shoulders off, keep it moving.
I think this is why Good as Hell works so well as an empowerment anthem, even when its audience is relatively general. She understands that no matter what we're going through, we have various feelings of sadness, anger, and frustration that we should be encouraged to accept that it's okay to feel them. She understands that in those times, we should be encouraged to take care of and be kind to ourselves, in times when we are most likely to beat ourselves up for being weak and vulnerable. She also understands that once we're able to accept and feel our feelings, we need to be able to pick ourselves up and allow things to get better. But at the same time, it's really difficult to do so when in those times we feel like we're at our lowest. And in times like those, sometimes the thing you need the most is simply someone who will let you rest your head on their shoulder. Someone who will let you be your most vulnerable self and give you as much time as you need to roost and heal until you're able to take flight once again. Lizzo gets it. I can tell deep down that her words and the way she sings come from a deep place of empathy and wanting to help whoever feels the pain that she felt. It's such a comforting, healing, yet triumphant song, and it's backed up by the fact that it's just a phenomenal song too.
I do my hair talk, check my nails, baby, how you feeling?
For one, the instrumentation of Good as Hell is beautiful and really lush. The piano that drives the whole song is glistening and propulsive, fitting the kind and comforting yet subtly strong and motivating vibe the song is going for. And that horn line is just fantastic too, and it feels so triumphant, especially in the pre-chorus.
Cause we don't love you anymore.
They sound almost heroic in a way. Like I can feel the superhero Lizzo saving me from the metaphorical collapsed building debris that is my life. Except not only is Lizzo helping me out of the wreckage, but she's giving me the power to lift it up myself. And don't you dare forget about her voice, probably her best instrument, aside from the flute.
Yes, Lord, trying to get some new shit in there, swimwear, going to the pool she.
Something I adore about Lizzo is how effortlessly conversational she sounds in her verses. It feels like she's sitting right next to me, keeping me company and making sure that I'm doing okay. And yet, within the same 3-minute span of time, she demonstrates once again how much of a powerhouse she is.
Baby, how you feeling? Check my nails.
It really says something when Ariana Grande appears on the remix of your song and you end up showing her up. And that's nothing to say about one of the greatest moments in pop music this decade.
Walk your fine ass out the door. And do your head talk.
A shining example of her strength and kindness. That one moment, the whole song, as well as her whole music career. Both Kandar and Lizzo have been two of the most incredible, wonderful, and empowering people in my life this past year. And I am so grateful for them being in my life. They really deserve the world.
Baby, how you feeling?
Oh my god, keeping the honorable mentions short was so much harder this year than it was last year. Jesus Christ, I left so much shit out. But I did it. Here's the best of the best that wasn't eligible or that I couldn't fit into the list proper.
Happiness is the same price as red bottom.
I've been waiting ever since the start of the year to explain in this video why I like Seven Rings so much, and why I felt like Ariana didn't deserve nearly as much flack as she got earlier in the year. But to be honest, I've completely forgotten everything that happened at the time, and I'm sure you have too. I'm just gonna say that Seven Rings is a fascinating depiction of a broken person drowning themselves in excess and delusion because they don't know how to fix their own problems. That probably doesn't reflect Ariana as a person, yet it might also explore her innermost irrational tendencies. What could happen to her if she completely lost herself in her trauma and wealth? Also, a good friend and I have not been able to stop quoting Seven Rings at each other all year because of how ridiculous all of its lines are. Shout out to Spook, by the way. Go say hi to them and tell them I said I definitely don't have time to explain here why I think this still works surprisingly well as a support song for the LGBTQIA+ community, so I've written down a few points that I've come up with since my summer video for your viewing pleasure. You can pause to read them here, and here, and here, and here.
How much money you got? A lot. How many problems you got? A lot. How many people done doubted you? A lot. Left you out to rap? A lot.
This is an absolute masterpiece. 21 Savage's flow gets a little basic at times, but that doesn't distract at all from every incredible piece of the song. His weathered yet triumphant performance, the melancholic yet catchy beat, and his remorseful yet resilient spirit in his lyrics, all of it combines to become even more than the sum of its parts. This could have made the list easily, but unfortunately there was one glaring problem.
How many faking they streams, getting they plays from machines?
I haven't had the chance to say this on video yet, but I can't stand J. Cole. I've only heard him on the hit songs he's on, like This and Middle Child, and the impression I get is that he's constantly bragging about how real he is while whining about how fake everyone else is. Combine that with how much he sucks up to all the big name rappers he collaborates with, and it just paints the picture of a guy trying to bribe his way to the top. He complains about payola a lot, but it's not that different from kissing the asses of every established name in the game, is it? He seems to have a lot of contempt for newer rappers who have adapted to the times way better than he has, which kinda rubs me the wrong way most of all when I pair it with the way he idolizes the well-recognized rappers that are cool to like. This guy just gives me a really cynical vibe, and I just can't vibe with that.
It's a moment when I show up, God, I'm saying wow.
I was genuinely tempted to put this on the list instead of Sunflower. I'm all for the self-expression and letting artists make what they want, but from what I've seen, Post Malone is so much better when he's just having fun.
Duh.
I hope y'all are okay with the thumbnail being based off of Bad Guy, despite it only being an honorable mention. This was the only idea I had for the thumbnail that was both iconic enough to be recognizable, yet also simple enough for me to draw in time for the video. Also, y'all already know how much I love this.
I could lie, say I like it like that, like it like that.
I had 3 Billy songs to choose from before Everything I Wanted took the crown, but this would have been the one if I was just going off the year end alone. Fantastic, through and through.
Wild men great till they gotta be great.
This absolutely would have made the list if Good As Hell wasn't a hit. It's got an infectious piano line and beat, it's got fun, cathartic, and iconic lyrics, and it's got one of the best performers of the decade behind the mic to boot. I'm glad it finally got its time to shine. Of all the songs I had to kick out, this was the most painful cut of all. It's just so immaculate. Its groove is something that I feel deep to my core. It's the perfect transition for Sam, from the classy presentation of their previous work to the dance pop they're delving into now. And this sound is absolutely perfect for Normani's sultry voice as well. It's such a simple song with very few parts in it, yet every single element of it is perfected and so expertly put together. It's magnificent.
I got the horses in the bag, horse stock is attached.
Consider this my official number 11. I'm sure everyone and their mom has said better stuff about this song than I can, so instead, please enjoy this footage I took that I plan to use as an intro.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road.
God, I love the fact that I could have put this on my list if I really wanted to. Man, y'all really screwed it up. Y'all could have potentially had the biggest smash of the decade and you didn't even let it enter the top 40. I even drew a thumbnail for it and prepared it the week it came out, not knowing that it would only debut at number 47, peak at 33, and flounder around at the bottom end of the Hot 100 for the next 10 weeks. Y'all could have had shirtless Kandar hugging skimpy Loeko. You could have had a bad bitch, non-committal. The hit I was hoping would be a hit all year. I'm certain there's another universe out there where Juice was the biggest song in history, like Old Town Road times 1,000. It had to have been. There's no way this was an absolutely humongous somewhere. This deserves Uptown Funk's success, at the very least. I was really torn between this and Now That I Found You. Both songs are these wonderful pieces of euphoric pop perfection with their own captivating qualities. At first I was leaning towards the other song because I felt like praising another 80s throwback from Carly would be kinda overdone, but I can't resist it. This is just beautiful. Carly's light, airy, yet exuberant and charming performance, complemented wonderfully by Jack Antonoff's Bleachers production, makes me want to dance like Carly does in the video. Oh yeah, and the vocoders help as well, of course. Dear Sigrid, I am writing this open letter to formally apologize for not putting Strangers in my honorable mentions last year. I deeply regret failing to highlight one of the best songs of last year in my video. I would like to make it right by dedicating an entire segment of this video to your music because you deserve it. Best regards, Loeko.
It hit me like a sucker punch. Just wanna look and I'm out of touch.
This was released as a single in late 2018, but I'm gonna include it anyway since the album came out in 2019 and that's when I first heard it. This one astounds me more and more the deeper I look into it. It's such a simple pop song on the surface, yet it radiates so much personality as well as songwriting and production chops that you learn to appreciate the more you listen to it. In particular, the entire section of the bridge right up to the end of the song is pop perfection. You get this soaring guitar line, a beautiful vocoder section, and this.
Sucker punch. Just wanna look and I'm out of touch. I'm freaking out.
Incredible. Why isn't Sigrid a household name already?
It's alright if we don't end up together.
This bops like a lot of Sigrid's other tracks, and I quite like the theme of being afraid that the relationship will go south, but trying to enjoy it while it lasts. But I'd also like to highlight that this is probably the best music video of 2019.
Because I'm not in it. I was supposed to be there, but because of delayed flights, I couldn't get there in time. So we needed someone to step in for me. So it's the director.
Or basically, I was forced into taking on Sigrid's role. Literally everything went wrong.
There's something so deeply wonderful about seeing the director pretend to be Sigrid and seeing him try his best while also absolutely cheesing it. The whole theme of things going wrong in the production also feels really endearing in an odd way. Like you get a bit of an appreciation for the art of the music video when you see absolutely anything and everything going wrong with it. And as a result, this absolute car pileup of a music video still works remarkably well.
But I see the world so different now.
I have this very specific heartstring that can be easily tugged, which would instantly make me cry if you can find it. That being sentiments of going through hell and back in your life and wanting to return home to a familiar homely comfort. Sigrid's voice is both light and delicate at points, yet also raspy and weathered in others. And it makes her an absolutely perfect fit for a song where the narrator has gone through some difficult times. It also holds a tenderness deep in her heart that yearns for nothing more than to return home. I don't know why this theme resonates with me so much, and I'm afraid yet kinda intrigued to learn what that says about me. This is a modern classic. I remember once I came up with this concept for an incredible music video for this song that was going to capture its heartache, and then I realized I had basically come up with a music video for Dancing on My Own by Robyn. Then I realized that Nevermind pretty much captures the same magic as that other modern classic. Its heartbreaking lyrics are exacerbated and emphasized by production that is pulsing and catchy, and yet almost just as sad and longing as Sigrid herself. Its chorus repeats the phrase "you were never mine" 29 times, and with each iteration it only becomes even more heart-wrenching. It's perfect for blasting in your bedroom at night as you melodramatically cry, scream, and sing along to it in order to feel every single one of your bursting emotions. The songs before show Sigrid's potential to be a world-famous pop star, but Nevermind shows Sigrid's potential to be one of the all-time greats. Oh yeah, speaking of Robyn and all-time greats,
Come on, let's have it out. Go ahead and try a little crazy on me.
Robyn released her latest album, Honey, late last year, and it took me way too long to realize that it's absolutely phenomenal. It gives me a similar vibe to Discovery by Daft Punk, and yet it's even tighter and more captivating, tied together by Robyn's wonderfully light yet gratifying performances. The album closes with my favorite track on the album, Ever Again. Its smooth and groovy intro soothes you and invites you to a world, making you comfortable while also keeping the production fresh enough to keep you hooked all the way to the bridge, and she takes you on a fucking journey. I'm not sure if I need to explain why this is so good, and I'm not sure if I can. All I know is that it's good, so you should check it out. Now let's finally get to the last song, the best hit song of the last year of the decade.
What on earth was that?
Number 1. I feel like we don't give Dua Lipa enough credit for being one of the best artists working in pop music right now. She's not the flashiest personality out there, but I can't think of anyone who's had such a consistent output of fantastic pop music as Dua. The general public got a really good sampling of that with her biggest hit so far, New Rules, which I would have included in my best list last year if I didn't consider it more of a 2017 hit. She had another song at the year-end last year, It Gaff, which showed that Dua's strength and confidence in New Rules wasn't just a fluke. It's a fantastic song lyrically, but I didn't really consider it for my list last year because it's admittedly kinda weak in its sound. Not that it's bad, it's actually quite good, but compared to most of the fantastic songs on her debut album, it just doesn't have that same punch. Though, in her defense, you can't really help it when you're 8 singles deep into your album cycle. For as good as It Gaff is, the lyrical dexterity it has deserved something even better. Thankfully for the lead single of her sophomore album, she finally got to provide. And before any of y'all say that Don't Start Now isn't technically a hit, let me tell you to sit down and shut the fuck.
If you don't wanna see me.
Dua Lipa has always been great at writing post-breakup songs that are just as convincing as they are cathartic. Much like Lizzo, she's able to tap into her genuine humanity and be open about her anger, her disappointment, her regret, or whatever else she's feeling. So you really believe her when she says she's over her ex. The songs on her debut album already showcase that strength, but here it feels like she's really honed and refined it into something even greater. Both It Gaff and Don't Start Now basically detail the same situation. After God knows how long, Dua's ex comes back into her life and tries to reconnect despite how badly things ended up before. In It Gaff, she was basically just really annoyed that she had to deal with this person pestering her and basically just went shoot, shoot. And that was a great way for her to demonstrate her strength as well as her humanity through an attitude that can be summarized by a beleaguered sigh. In Don't Start Now, however, I feel like there's almost a new element of sensitivity to it.
Did the heartbreak change me, baby? But look at where I ended up.
She makes no secret of the fact that the relationship and the breakup hurt her, and that she's not as innocent as she was before, but that doesn't make her seem weak or unable to get over it. Not by a long shot.
Though it took some time to survive you, I'm better on the other side.
You don't have to completely forget the pain in order to get over it. The way she sings about the relationship this time feels like she still knows all too well what the pain she had to endure felt like. Dua has not forgotten the pain, and she's not completely invulnerable to it, but it's specifically that vulnerability in her that has encouraged her to grow from it, and she has grown stronger from within to make sure that pain doesn't get to her anymore. And now that this person has the audacity to come back now, after what they did to her, she has no patience for it whatsoever now that she's doing better, and she brushes them off before they even have the chance to show up.
If you wanna believe that anything could stop me, don't show up, don't come out, don't start caring about me now.
absolutely love this lyrical conceit. There's so much power in being able to tell them not to even bother seeing it for yourself because you know they're only going to be disappointed. These are probably some of the most powerful and cathartic lyrics I've ever heard from a breakup song.
Walk away, you know how.
This is by far my favorite lyric of the year. It's both a moment of humanity as she implicitly shows how her ex hurt her and how she felt, as well as an incredibly sharp attack on them. There's so much vulnerability and so much venom packed into such a tight 5-word package. Dua lets you know that this relationship did indeed deeply hurt her, and she lets you know that she's still all too familiar with the pain she felt. Yet she shows you that she's grown stronger and she's not gonna let you ruin all the damn fun she's having now that you're out of her life. All while dancing to some of the best production I've heard on the charts all year, and arguably this entire decade.
If you don't wanna see me.
This song blows me away with its sound right from the first second. The quiet swell subtly builds up to this fantastic shimmering gut punch of a piano line. It gives you an immediate sense that the song is going to be huge right before it does a full 180.
Did a full 180. Crazy.
In stark contrast to the intro, the first verse shoots you with the crispest and grooviest bassline I've heard in a while. The intro lifts you up and gives you a taste of what it's like to fly before it hits the ground running and teaches you how to dance. As the song progresses, it constantly plays between these two moods, sometimes introducing those silky smooth synths and glistening piano into that grounded funky bassline.
Aren't you the guy who tried to hurt me with the word goodbye?
The constant interweaving of the two sounds keep me riveted and grooving, as if it's helping to lift me up as part of some elaborate dance routine. When you finally get to the final chorus, however, these two sounds moving through the song like a DNA strand finally collide and produce a nuclear explosion of pop perfection that sends me absolutely flying.
Don't show up, don't show up, don't come out, don't come out.
It's like when How Do You Sleep combines its elements together at the end, except here it makes something that's so much more than some of its parts. Not to mention they throw in this racing guitar line because fuck it, why not make the song more perfect?
Don't stop caring about me now, about me now.
I don't think I've heard an outro to a song so overwhelmingly fantastic and world-filling since Lorde released Greenlight. This is the song that plays in the club as Dua kisses off her ex before kicking him to the curb for even daring to try and ruin her fun. It's as cathartic and triumphant as it is vibrant, shining, and just so much fun. This was far and away the song that I played the most this year, and I hope y'all can see why. Future nostalgia is gonna be fucking radical.